None of my brothers are happy with it. None of my sisters are happy with it. None of my uncles and aunties are happy with the situation. We do mind people climb it. It should not be climbed.
I understand the cultural sensitivity, and I would be sensitive to it, but I think it would be an interesting challenge to be able to climb.
I just wanted to climb the Uluru.
I'm an Australian. I should be able to go wherever I like.
It's a difficult one because I do respect the culture, but actually there's a part of me that wants to go up the rock as well.
My mother was born here, as well as many lines of grandparents. Over 20,000 years plus, my family has walked on the lands we're standing on. We don't like people climbing it, and I can't wait for the time to come when it will be closed. The parks people have been saying, we're going to close it for you, but I'm still waiting for that to happen.
Climbing causes deep cultural offence. It is eroding the rock, and studies are investigating the extent of its environmental impact, but still 54% of tour operators offer the climb.
I think perhaps having a sign at the base of the climb requesting people not to climb, and then having a gate that opens right beside it can play with people's minds in a little way, where you've got a sign which says in really nice words, please don't climb, and then all of a sudden there's a gate that's opened up. I've had customers explain it to me before that it's a little bit like leaving a jar of lollies on the table and asking a child not to eat any before dinner and then leaving the room.
The system that is in place now is what we call a pretends gammon that they care. We do mind people climb it. Hey, you're showing nothing but terrible disrespect if you support the system that allows you to want to climb Uluru, and you encourage that system to climb Uluru.
The majority of tour guides are actually telling their customers to not climb the rock, saying that it's not the right thing to do, even though just through the way their contracts are established with overseas operators, they may still have to offer a time frame where their guests can climb the rock if they wish to. But from what I'm hearing from the guys that actually drive the buses and do those tours is most of the people aren't actually climbing the rock, they're doing a full base walk. So I think a lot of the agents, even if they might be a little bit old school and still want to sell the product as a climbing tour, I think they're slowly getting used to the idea that they will have to change in the not too distant future.
The park's management plan, released in 2010, lays out 3 criteria for closing the climb. These include climb numbers falling below 20% of total visitors. It says that only one of these criteria needs to be reached before the authorities look to close the climb.
In 1990, there was around about 80% of people would climb Uluru. So we're getting less than 20% these days. So as far as getting the message out there and protecting and looking after heritage, and also to maintaining culture for the climb, it does show that that number is reducing that much. So I would say that our marketing and talking about the park and what its values are is actually working. So there are climb counters on there. It's measuring less than 20% of people who are visiting the park. So we're measuring that, we're measuring the people, why they're coming, and also too we're looking at new tourism activities, taking the climb apart, or taking the climb away from the park, while it's catering for about less than 20% of visitors. We want to have other experiences for people to enjoy while they come here.
One of the key stipulations, that is, when the numbers fall below 20%, the climb will be, well, they'll look at start closing the climb. That hasn't yet happened.
No.
The National Park also falls under the Environmental Protection and Biodiversity Conservation Act, which enshrines the protection of the site's heritage.
Damaging heritage is something that is done if a single person climbs, isn't it? This EPBC Act clearly says that any damage of heritage is not allowed. How do you marry that with the fact that it's still open?
Terry, I find that difficult to answer.
The water that comes off Uluru after rain has bacteria in it, E. coli and some other bacteria. And we assume that that bacteria is coming from people going to the toilet up there when there's no toilet facilities, and it's being washed down into the water holes. The only other concern that we have from an environmental point of view is just the erosion, just the scar that it leaves. You can see from being here for a few days, you don't have to be very close to Uluru to see where people go up and down.
Parks Australia's own research indicates that 98% of visitors would not be put off from visiting Uluru should the climb close. Despite this, and the climb numbers seemingly dropping below 20%, there is still no clear roadmap in place for closing the climb.
I think it's something that's national heritage that we should respect, and certainly the traditional owners wish us not to climb it, and I think their wishes is something that we should probably follow.
You shouldn't climb it for safety reason and for the fact that it's a sacred site, but it also says that this is a traditional path that their ancestors would have used to climb up.
I think everybody should respect the traditional owners' wishes and not climb the rock.
I would like to see the climb closed as soon as is practically possible, but the reality of the situation is with the way the tourism industry works and the way things are promoted, that once a decision is made by the national park, there'll need to be a window of perhaps 12 to 18 months to allow the tourism industry, not just domestically in Australia, but all those agents overseas that actually sell the product, for the message to get out to them and actually be put on the shelves that it's not a climbing tour anymore, and to officially close it, you're looking at probably 18 months after the decision is actually made.
When would you like to see it closed?
Immediately. The biggest respect people could show us Anangu people who are the caretakers of this region is to do what we'd like them to do. And one of the things we'd like them to do is not climb Uluru.